Great. Thanks, Steve. And yeah, very good evening, everyone. It is 10:30 over here. So two of the kids are at school. You get to see Ben shortly. But yeah, it's really, really great to connect with everyone. Of course, would be nice to be there in person. But it's really nice to see so many people on the Zoom. We can recognize everyone's names there. So great to connect with everyone. And really nice that we have an opportunity to share something positive tonight. And really, it kind of stands in contrast to what we see in so many countries around the world today, with things really spiraling downwards. There's hatred and selfishness everywhere and problems. So we're going to focus and come together, unite together as a family to consider the wonderful generosity and care that we have for each other. So it's just beautiful that we can connect in this way at this time. So we're really excited to present on Agape in Action tonight, and we'll break it down into a few different sections. And we have a couple of videos we'll hope to show throughout the presentation as well. I'll start off with just a quick overview of what's been going on in Agape in Action, just realizing it's been quite a while since we last were in contact with everyone there. I'm sure many people are keeping up to date with emails and newsletters, but we'll just do a quick overview for those who perhaps are not up to date, and focus very quickly on one of the programs supporting young people that's really exciting, and show a short video that's connected to that. And then Deb's going to take us through some of the projects, or two of the projects that Cambridge Ecclesia supports, or a project and an individual, I should say, and then provide an update on the impacts of COVID on our brothers and sisters in the countries where we're working. And then we'll finish off with a video which was just completed last night. So you guys are the first ones to see it. Hopefully it goes smoothly. So just wanted to preface this, first of all, by saying that, acknowledging that everything that is done through Agape in Action really is God's work. And we feel incredibly blessed and privileged to be able to reach out and connect with brothers and sisters throughout the world, especially those who are really in need at this time. And that's what makes this work so encouraging and so inspiring, that we really deeply feel that this is God's work, and he has been the one who has blessed the activities. And it's really been an amazing witness of generosity of our brothers and sisters, that in this time and this year, with all the things going on with COVID and the uncertainties that people are facing, losing employment, etc., that we've had our biggest year of giving ever. It's just remarkable that people in this time have been willing to really step up and be generous like never before. And really, it's exactly what we want to be found doing when our Lord returns. It's focusing on the needs of others. It's kind of standing aside from the world around us, who's consumed with politics and with problems and anger and grievances, and just focus on compassion and care and love towards our brothers and sisters near and far, and put our love into action. So it's certainly what we want to be found doing when our Lord comes back. And as we know only too well, it is pure religion to visit the fatherless, the vulnerable, and the widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. And that word pure there has the idea of being purified by fire. And I think it is when individually or as ecclesia we go through these trials that we become extra aware and sensitive to the needs of our brothers and sisters, and realize just how vulnerable and dependent we are on our Heavenly Father and on each other. And as another version says, he took up the cause of the need and the poor, and it was well with him. And was not this to know me, saith the Lord. So really it strikes, as we've mentioned many times, at the very heart and character of our Heavenly Father is to take up the cause of the poor and needy. And that's really what we hope to do through the work of Agape in Action, is to be an advocate for those of our brothers and sisters who are in need, and respond with generosity and compassion. So a quick summary of where we're currently at. We're currently working in 12 countries, and there's probably a couple of new ones since we last chatted to you all. Sierra Leone, you'll see on the west side of Africa there, has been added just in the last couple of years, as well as Bangladesh, Solomon Islands, and Vanuatu. And we won't have time to go into the projects in detail, but it's really encouraging that we've been able to connect to some new brothers and sisters who are really also in desperate need in these other countries. So we focus in on 6 main theme areas, and I'll just quickly skim over these 6 areas. Education and training is a key one, and we're currently running 9 Agape in Action schools in these countries. And we also support a whole bunch of young people to go to school and to get a trade education. I think currently there's about 900 young people who are being supported through the Atashinda program, which is equipping them with skills to get employment and be able to support themselves and their families and communities. And one of the new schools is actually this school in Vanuatu. It's in a really quite remote, hilly, poor area near a volcano. So the ash from the volcano actually makes the land very difficult to work. It can't grow anything. So it's very poor, underprivileged area that we've just started working in Vanuatu. Health and nutrition is a really big and important one. And under this program falls our nutrition drink program, which gives a lot of drinks to kids and to adults who are really in desperate need. There's things like mosquito nets and hygiene kits and lots of medical care, including supporting people who have been diagnosed with COVID, plus a whole bunch of other ongoing infectious diseases, chronic conditions, and injuries. Also under this is our Widows program, which is continuing to grow into new areas and support elderly sisters who have been widowed. And it's exciting to see this. It's really a mobilization of sisters supporting each other and young people as well, getting into the work to provide care for the most vulnerable in our community. Homes and shelters, we currently have 11 children's homes in Kenya and in India, and 2 old people's homes. Water and sanitation, we continue the work there. And just a couple of days ago, there was a well put in Kenya. So there's wells and bores. There's also rainwater tanks, and toilets is another big one under this program. Microfinance and sustainability. So these are brothers and sisters who have been supported in their small businesses, as well as some small projects like farms which grow food for our projects and to sell. And spiritual care. This is embedded into everything that we do, and we have specific programs that support our young people and our brothers and sisters with materials, with Bibles and books, with support for getting to youth conferences, and just for general ecclesial support activities. So this is a really fundamental part of everything that we do, embedding the good news into all of our activities and share that hope that we have with those in these communities that we work. And this is a wonderful picture. It's of India, some of the children in India, and this children's home, they not only are really immersed in Bible education and teaching and Sunday school, but they're also very active in their communities and going out to do preaching work. And that top picture there is the young people from one of our homes going out to support the work of preaching in rural areas of India. And not only supporting preaching activities, but these young people are very much engaged in outreach as well. So doing practical care to those in the community. So it's just fantastic to see the brothers and sisters and these young people now really growing up with this love of God, with good grounding in the gospel and the faith that we share, and implementing that in a very practical way and getting out there and sharing their hope with those around them. And just as a reminder, it's still the case that 100% of all donations go to the field. And we have a small group of brothers and sisters who are business owners who underwrite all of our running costs, which allows us to commit 100% to the field. So that's still very much the case. So just really quickly on this focus on spiritual care and on our young people. This, I think, is one of the most exciting parts of Agape in Action, is to see our young people come up through our programs, to connect with other young people. And ultimately, we pray to embrace the gospel and commit their lives to Christ through baptism, and to continue on to give and to share with those around them. And this was a Bible school several years ago, but there's a lot of activities that continue to support our young people spiritually, and ultimately, we pray that they will be baptized. And we are always encouraged when we hear reports and see photographs of people, young people that we've known and worked with, being baptized. And one of the things we do try to focus on is not only teaching the gospel through connecting these young people with ecclesias and Sunday schools and youth camps, but also providing the opportunity and providing support to help our young people go out and live out their faith in a practical way, in a way that they kind of choose. And they get together as youth groups, and they plan activities, and they go out and they support their communities. And it's really encouraging to see this. And one of the projects we had a few years ago, and unfortunately we haven't been able to do it again. It was planned for this year, actually, but due to COVID, it's been postponed. But it's our LIFE program, and it's leadership in faith-based endeavors. And it's this program was run a few years ago, and it was a selection of young people across Kenya, all coming together for actually a 3-month program, intensive program, looking at Bible study and Bible education, but also lots of practical training and planning for outreach activities. So when they went back into the field, they implemented these projects that they had planned during their training. And you can see in this picture one of the workbooks at the front. So there's a really thick workbook that they work through, and lots of really practical and applied lessons that kind of confront issues that these young people are facing in their communities. They work through these issues, they get practical training, as we mentioned, and they set up a plan to go out to their own communities when they go back home and support their ecclesias. So here's some of the practical training that they get as well. So things the sisters would get into sewing and all sorts of different practical activities that a lot of these young people, because they have lost their parents, haven't had the opportunity to obtain from their parents. So trying to teach some of these practical skills and pass that down to these young people is part of the focus of this training program. And here's a couple of examples of them going back out to their communities. And in this case, we're going to see a video just shortly on this sister on the left with the red shirt on. Is her name's Sister Angel. And she is here visiting a hospital and giving a care package to people in a hospital. But we'll get to see some of the other work that she's involved with in her home ecclesia. Some of the other young people who decided to get together and visit a hospital and do cleaning work, just make themselves useful. And it was really nice to see them as a group of young people so excited about the opportunity to get together and to go out and to do these practical activities. It's a really awesome experience to see them bonding together and be really excited about the opportunity to do something for others. And they take little leaflets which explain who they are and what they believe, and they hand them out when they do these activities. So we're just going to pause in the presentation and show this short video. Some of you may have seen it, it's not a new one, but it really nicely sums up some of the activities, or an activity of one of the young people who is a graduate of that LIFE program.
Providing support to those in need is what we do. But how do the dollars you donate help those who live thousands of miles away in the remotest and most forgotten corners of the world, where there's no running water, no email, no computers, and no electricity? There are many steps and many people involved in the process, and one of the most critical links in the chain is having someone on the ground, on the front lines, providing practical and spiritual care to those in need. Agape in Action depends on a network of volunteers and workers to show love and provide care in the harshest and most challenging of places. We don't often think of those on the front lines and the sacrifices they make as they serve on our behalf. But without them, we could not do what we do. We simply could not reach our brothers and sisters who need support. Sister Angel is one of those frontline carers we depend on. Her focus is on providing care to widows living in the eastern inland region of Kenya. Angel regularly travels for hours and hours on the back of a motorbike to visit elderly sisters, widows living in very poor conditions. Angel is a young sister who graduated from Agape in Action's LIFE program a couple of years ago. The LIFE program is a spiritual leadership and discipleship program for young people in Kenya. After she returned to her home ecclesia, she put into practice the lessons she learned by visiting elderly widows in her region. She started this program without being asked by anyone. It was her own personal response to the call of the gospel. We learned about the amazing work she was doing and now provide her an allowance and a budget to support her outreach activities. On her visits to widows, she shares fellowship with our sisters, who are often feeling lonely and isolated. She reads the Bible with them. She patiently listens to their concerns. She checks their health and helps them with chores such as washing and cleaning. And she provides them with a care package of food and hygiene supplies and whatever else might be needed at that time. Sister Angel is one of the many committed and faithful workers and volunteers who provide care on our behalf. It's very hard work. It's a personal sacrifice and a personal choice. It's so encouraging for us to see young people supported through Agape in Action embrace and live out the gospel as they give themselves in service to others. Is this not the pure religion James speaks of in James 1, verse 27? When you give, you are not only helping a brother, sister, or child in desperate need. You are providing opportunities for our young people to put their love in action as disciples of Christ. Thank you so much for your important role in this support.
Okay, I'll just get the presentation back up. And I'm going to hand it over to Deb now, but just before I do that, that video, all the footage for that video was actually taken by a young brother who was supported by Agape in Action. It's just beautiful footage. We did the editing here, but all the footage was captured by one of the beneficiaries of Agape in Action, which is really awesome. So I will hand it over to Deb now to take you through projects that you're intimately involved with.
Hi, everyone. It's really good to be able to zoom in and see a few names on the screen that we recognize. It's really good. So I wanted to share with you a bit about the two projects or the two things that you guys are actually sponsoring at Cambridge. First one being the Go to School of Light, which you donate to. So Godo is a really, really remote area in coastal Kenya. And there's a thriving ecclesia there. And in the ecclesial hall, we started this little school, which has grown from there. We've had some extra classrooms built and lots of kids coming. So currently there's about 100 kids there. And it's run as a Christadelphian school where the kids come and receive their primary school training, and they get Bible lessons as well. And they also receive food and nutrition. It's a very, very poor area in Kenya, very prone to drought. So the kids there receive learning materials and clean water, and the teachers receive a small stipend. One of the projects that goes on there is our nutrition drink program, and we've actually seen the kids transformed there after drinking this drink for several years actually now. And there's a primary school nearby that sometimes they send some of their kids also to join into the nutrition drink program, to benefit from that as well, because they've seen the results and the health of the children improve because of that program at the school. So I just included a few photos so you can see what it's like there. The desks and everything have been built, and a lot of the things we get at the school we also get donated through our Gifts of Hope catalog. So school materials and desks and things like that. Here's one of the classes. So you can see the teacher at the front there. There's 3 teachers, Christadelphians, that receive employment also through this project, which is really good. Some of the playground equipment also gets donated through our catalog to the schools. It's another one of the classrooms. So this is actually the ecclesial hall, and you can see the back wall is it's actually just a partition that they put up. So they divide the ecclesial hall into 2 and have the classrooms there during the week. There's the kids out playing soccer. You can also see in that photo, there's like a little dirt structure on the end of a couple of the buildings there. And those are to protect the rainwater tanks that have been provided. This is a very drought prone area. You can see grass growing there in that photo, but they're very dependent on rainwater. And it's one of the few places the kids can actually come and get clean water to drink. This is one of the areas where we visited originally that were drinking water that looked like chocolate milk. It was so dirty. Okay, now the other one that you guys support, which you know, the Sunday School have been supporting Mercy for many years now. Mercy was one of the kids that was first taken in the first cohort to go into Layla Children's Home. And I remember when we were in Cambridge, all the big packages that we used to send to Mercy from all the kids writing to her. So she continues, she's doing really well. So that's her when you first started supporting her in 2008. And here she is a couple of years later in her primary school uniform, proudly going to school. Mercy, I don't know if you remember, she's a total orphan. So she had no parents at all. And she was coming to the home of Brother Justice and Sister Annette just to try and get some food because she had nothing to eat. So she was eventually taken in by them and then into the children's home where she's grown up. There she is in 2018 in her high school uniform. And then after she graduated from high school, there she is this year, 2020. She moved into Kimbilio, which is our other home that supports older kids. It's a shelter for teenagers and youth that are either going to high school or doing trades and college education. So Mercy was baptized last year in July, which was really exciting. And she is now doing a course in, I think it was supply chain management. there she is there. She's the one in the red flowered dress. That's just taken, I think, last week. We asked for a little bit of an update if they could send photos. So she's there actually in her college. And the other 3 girls there are also from, originally from Layla's Children's Home, and they're in Kimbilio now. So all 4 of them are able to go there together to complete their courses, which is really good that they're not on their own. And at the end of this presentation, you're actually going to learn a bit more about Brenda. She's the other girl there in the red t-shirt. She was taken in about the same time as Mercy, actually, into Layla Children's Home. So they've grown up together, those 2. So there they are when they at their college. Okay, now I don't know if you caught what she said there. When they went, so Brother Justice went to visit Mercy and the other girls at their college, because we'd said we're going to do a presentation for Cambridge Ecclesia, and maybe Mercy wants to say a few words to say hello and let you guys know how she's doing. But Mercy is extremely shy. She really struggles, especially in front of a camera, to be outgoing and to say anything. So she started there to say, hello, Cambridge Ecclesia, but she just couldn't handle it. Now, eventually, she did do a little video clip, which I am going to play for you next, to say hello to everyone at Cambridge. But it had to be written down, and she had to read it because she was very, very nervous. But what's good is at the end of this presentation, the other girl there, Brenda, is very different from Mercy, not shy at all, quite confident, has very good English. And you're going to hear from her, and she has a very similar story to Mercy. But yeah, here's Mercy.
Yeah. Hello, brothers and sisters from Cambridge Ecclesia. I am so grateful to be part of child sponsorship through Agape in Action. Thank you very much for the support you gave me from Layla Home. Currently, I am at Kimbilio Home. I am pursuing my certificate in supply chain management at Bungoma College of Technology. I am so grateful for your support. I love words to express how grateful I am. May God bless you. Thank you, Cambridge Ecclesia.
So that was Mercy, and that was just taken last week. So she's actually recently been able to go back to college. All of the schools were in lockdown in Kenya until very, very recently, and they've in a phased way started to open up some of the colleges. So she's been able to go back, and that was taken just last week.
Yeah.
All right, so I'd like to give you just a little update on COVID and how that's affected our activities in the field. We've had to change a lot of the way we do things because in particular, like in Kenya, our schools, all of our primary schools are closed, and they remain closed at the moment since March this year. The government has closed all the schools. So in our schools in particular, we've been able to continue to provide funds, but those funds, instead of being used for running the schools, have been used to support the families of those children in their homes. The reason that's needed is the biggest problem besides the sickness has been food. People living in lockdown in Kenya or in a lot of these countries, it's different from being in lockdown in, Australia or Canada, where we might get some government assistance and we can still, have food available. But in some of these other places, it's been very difficult. If you don't have food in your cupboard for the next day, if you're dependent every day to go and get your food, and you're told that you need to stay in your home, that obviously causes big problems. So food has been an issue. Some people who have employment, you know, a lot of that has dried up during lockdowns. So we have a lot of brothers and sisters who've been in even greater need during this time of COVID. So did you want to add anything to that before I?
No, just to say that, as we know, India's been hit really, really hard with COVID. We've had a number of brothers and sisters that are in our homes come down with it. But Africa seems to be slightly different. It's not sure why it's not quite as bad. Sure, there's underreporting going on, but there's no reports of hospitals being overrun. So it's an interesting phenomenon that we're seeing in Africa and in places like Papua New Guinea, which we still really just don't know why that's the case. But it's certainly there. It's certainly spreading. It's certainly having a big impact, and a lot of the restrictions are actually causing a lot of hardship as well, as Steph said.
So the way we've responded to that is we've worked alongside CBM in Kenya anyways, to provide food aid. We've done a lot of extra, you can see here, this is a widow. She's received a bucket with a tap. That's been a big thing, so people can actually wash their hands properly. So I've just got a few photos here to show you on some of the distributions that we've been able to do. So widows programs have continued. Besides food, you can see there she's received soap in a bucket with a tap. This is at Kimbilio Home, where they're doing training on, you know, how to disinfect everything. Some of the youth are learning. This is in Tanzania through the sponsorship program, providing, again, buckets with taps and soap, teaching them how to wash their hands. This is a widows program in central Kenya, where they've received food and buckets. This is a food distribution in coastal Kenya. This brother on the right-hand side, this young brother has actually graduated from school through ANA, and he has he's got a background in nutrition and health. So he's been actually going around to some of the areas and showing them how to properly wash their hands, which has been really helpful. So this is at Kimbilio. Now with our homes, a lot of the kids in Kenya have ended up, especially at Kimbilio, where they're usually off in college or going to school and not actually living at the home, have ended up in the home for all these months, not able to go to school. So we've had to provide extra food and adjust all our budgets for our projects in that way. This was really encouraging at Kimbilio. They've spent a lot of their spare time doing Bible programs and Bible studies together, which is great. Here they are at Kimbilio, all the youth, their masks on. Here's another area where we've provided buckets and taps and hand washing again. And the widows receiving their food. This is at one of our homes at Matendo Children's Home. There's a kid there. It looks like she has her mask over her eyes as well. They've made restrictions in a lot of these areas that they have to wear masks. So we've had to provide funding for that as well. This is in an area of Kenya where not only were they suffering from lockdown, but they're having a big outbreak of malaria. So we had to provide mosquito nets. This is Sister Angel, who you just saw. She's on the left there. So she's continuing her work of going around and visiting the widows. And she's also got some buckets and masks there to provide for them. This is food distributions for brothers and sisters. This usually happens out of ecclesial halls where they get food, and then the brothers and sisters can come and pick up packs of food. And they've been so grateful for this. Like, you know, they're dependent on it basically during this time. It's been very, very difficult for so many to even put food on their tables. This is in India. This is early on, before things got really bad in India with COVID, but people were in lockdown and didn't have food. So these are kids from Faith Home and from the youth group from the same ecclesia where Faith Home is, and they were going out and distributing food packs to brothers and sisters in the area. This is in the refugee camp in northern Kenya, Kakuma, where they've been provided food relief as well. So James touched on this. In India, COVID is really bad. They have very high numbers reported, but they aren't reporting all of the numbers. So it would be much higher than is actually reported. And this is actually one of our caregivers at Faith Home, Sister Shuba. She contracted COVID, had to be treated at home. And her husband, Brother Andrew, was trying to look after her. And then he got COVID as well. We had a caregiver at our other children's home, Elvira Children's Home. He got COVID and was very, very sick, needed to be hospitalized. It's very hard to get people into hospitals. So we had to provide extra funding. He had to get into like a private facility just to get care. We've also had a brother Kieran, who looked after Ada Arana Children's Home. He also contracted COVID and is now recovered. You may have heard Sister Sarah Galbraith. She also contracted COVID and she's recovering at home now. But Brother Tim, who would be high risk because he's older, he couldn't even get a test. So his wife is at home with COVID and he couldn't even get a test. So that's just the way things are in India. We zoomed in and James did an exhortation in one of the ecclesias in India, and we were chatting to them, and there's people who haven't been out of their homes since March, like haven't gone out at all. Kids that haven't seen another kid because they're just afraid to go out because it's just everywhere in the communities there. So we've worked with ACBM as well in India to provide food for ecclesias, for brothers and sisters there. This is one of the distributions. And this is in another area in India, more rural. So when you talk to our reps on the ground in India and in Kenya who are organizing things, you talk to them about COVID. They all say the biggest issue is food. People are hungry. So for the last several months, we've been working with CBM and brothers and sisters on the ground to make sure that people have food. Now, one of the other things that's happened with COVID, which hasn't been very good, is our children's homes, both in Kenya and in India, have been semi-closed by government. So basically governments have said, if a child has a living relative, they need to leave the home and they need to go wherever that living relative is. So they don't want the kids together in the children's homes for some reason. So all these kids those who have living relatives have been dispersed. The issues that's caused is some of the living conditions that they're going to are really bad. Like they might have be going to a grandmother who is a widow, who lives in a dirt hut, who doesn't have a bed for them to sleep on, doesn't have any food. And these kids are taken from the homes and just put in these situations without any help. So we've been trying to monitor where all these kids have gone from all the different children's homes. And this is a photo of a guy going out to find some of these kids and with care packages. So there's been big operations we've had to organize with these guys going out and delivering food and whatever's needed to these kids in their homes, which really is counterproductive because they're going out and they're supposed to be all in lockdown. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense what's been happening, but we've been trying to track those kids and make sure that they're cared for in their homes. So there's a whole line of, this is from Layla Children's Home. They're all heading out on motorbikes laden with goods to try and track down all these kids that have gone. And some of them have gone quite a long distance. So this is in both India and in Kenya. This has happened. So there's a delivery. They found a child and they give them, they stock up, they try and stock up the family so they have food to last for some time. There's another family. It's received goods. See, there's a young person who's been shipped off to this grandparent that's far away and had nowhere to basically keep this boy or provide for him. There's another one. You can see there she's also got a blanket because she obviously had nowhere to sleep. There you go, a widow grandmother has now suddenly received 3 kids on her doorstep to try and look after. Now, the last story I just want to share with you about COVID, because it's a favorite of mine, it's to do with our gift catalog, actually. So for several years now, we've been doing the goat program. People can purchase a goat, and that will be provided to a family or an ecclesia in need so that they can get some income for that. So one of the ways that's been used is brothers and sisters have started in the coastal region like an ecclesial project where they keep a few goats and they all have to care for these goats. And the idea is that when they then need something as an ecclesia, like someone gets sick or someone, you know, their house falls in the rain because it's a mud house or whatever, they can then sell one of these goats and provide as an ecclesia for that person instead of having to contact, you know, CBM welfare and say, you know, we need help. So it's probably a couple of months ago now, the Kenyan government reopened churches in Kenya, and they said churches can reopen, but they have to have social distancing. They have to have hand washing as you enter. They have to have a thermal gun to take everyone's temperature. Now, this for us might seem pretty normal. I mean, that's basically what we're doing here in Australia right now. You have to sign in, you have to wash your hands, whatever. But when you're talking about an ecclesia that meets in rural Kenya in a mud hut, you know, in the middle of nowhere, it's just a little bit more tricky. And when they were told they weren't allowed to open until they had like a thermometer, this is a big expense for some of these ecclesias. So they got together in most areas and wrote to the CBM and said, we can't reopen until we have these thermometers. So can you help us purchase these? Well, some of the ecclesias in coastal Kenya, where they had the goat program going, they didn't want to wait for all that to happen because, you know, the request has to go to the next level and the next level and to CBM, and then they have to decide and whatever. They wanted to open right away. They wanted to be able to meet again. So this ecclesia in particular, way out in the sticks in Kenya, it's the Makundi ecclesia, they decided they were going to sell one of their goats and buy the thermometer and the bucket for hand washing, which we thought was such a great initiative and exactly what we'd hoped to happen with this goat program. So this brother here in the maroon suit is Brother Sammy. He's our rep in the area, and he went to visit this ecclesia and sent these photos because he was just really impressed about what they'd done. So you can see here, they've got bottles of soap and they've got their little tap there. They've gone and purchased their thermometer. And even though they don't really know how to wear their masks correctly, they've got them on. And then they've social distanced all their chairs and they've decided to meet outside, and they've all got their masks on, and they were able to meet right away after the word went out that they could meet again if they could meet the government regulations. So that was just a really, I don't know, I just was really happy to hear that story because we provided these goats for this reason, and they've obviously been able to utilize those in the right way. All right, so that's a bit of a wrap on COVID, and I think we will have some time after for any questions that you have. But we wanted to finish with this video just to finish things off. This is about a girl, Brenda. Again, she's the first cohort of kids that came into Layla's Children's Home at the same time as Mercy, the girl that you sponsor there.
called Brenda Nanjala. The first time we met with the Agape in Action as a charity, you visited us at a home where we were staying with our grandmother, whom unfortunately she passed on this year.
They have the only clothes as you are seeing now. No extra clothes for these children. It's a problem. If he cannot go out to find a bread, they sleep without eating or anything. They all sleep in one house. Nothing is in the house. No food in the house. No water in the house. This is their cupboard. There is nothing to eat at all in this cupboard.
Me and my brother, sister, and I were taken to the orphanage at Lela Children's Home. Sometimes it's so disappointing. You feel like your own people have rejected you. When I came into Lela, I just took Lela as my home. And people were in the orphanage were my sisters, my brothers, my mothers and fathers, because I had nowhere to call a home. When I was at home, I was not going to school. My education levels, it was difficult because financially we were down. There's some things that you'll face. Maybe there's no father and maybe you're the only one who is taking care of you. He is left with the mother, but now the family doesn't want her. But now we remained with our grandmother, where now we could not go to school, and we're three of us who will take care of us. So we thank God. When we reached at Lela home, we went to school. Is when I started to go to school. And it's just because of you, I was comfortable. I was not being sent home for school fees. Everything I was provided.
We thank you for what you've done. Look around, see you are work, and then you feel at home. In action, we thank you for what you've done. Look around, see you are work, and then you feel at home.
Even I don't know what to say, but I just thank God for you. You people, you have done a lot. So after I finished my primary school, I did it and I passed my exam. And now I had a chance to join the high school. For that period of 4 years, I thank God I made it successful. And it is you, the same people, who made me to be the way I am. You are made smart, you are looking neat. So you just wonder, if we could not be you people, will we be in school? Will we be the same? Will I be the same the way I am, the way I might look? So I did my high school level while I was still at Lela. But while we're at Lela, it's like they said, those ones who have finished with the high school, they're grown-ups. So it was a suggestion that we be taken to another place. So it was a privilege that you allowed us to come on this side. We thank God. Having no biological parents to take care of us, having really good people in our lives, it's so good. It's so enjoyable to call you uncles, mom, dad. I thank God for you. Spiritually, even I have grown. I love God so much, and I thank God of the materials I've been provided. We have been given Bibles. I thank God. It has made me to rise up spiritually. I love God so much.
Against the powers of this dark world and against the spirit.
Verse 16, the shield of faith. You have to put on that shield for defense. Everybody knows the importance of what I'm saying. The armor of God, the shield of faith, helmet of salvation, and the last one is the sword of the Spirit, and that is the word of God.
Some people, when I go into the village there, just looking at the place, people just wonder if am I the same person who was taken from there. They don't believe if I am the one. But I thank God, because if He has something for you and He has purpose to you, like you are the people to bring my destiny into being. Somebody maybe could have come and ruined my destiny, but God connected you to come to my rescue. At least now my destiny is seen. I'm seen to be a person and not a nobody. I'm a somebody. Thank God so much. I thank God so much. I did well in high school. I secured the chance in the college. And that's my desire and my passion is to be a teacher. I want to be a teacher. Even not just a teacher, a professional teacher. So that I can help other people. People neglect that course. It is so good. It is my desire that I'll pass it and become somebody who's going to be helpful to the society and not just going to bring burdens to the other people in the community. No. So the impact that Agape in Action as a charity has played in my life have brought me from the village where I could not be schooled, where spiritually maybe I could not know God at all. Educational wise, I have been our father, I have been my fathers and mothers, providing me with everything that I could need. That's my thing, that's the only thing. I just pray for you that God bless you so much and you continue with the same spirit. When the time you came at home, it was just terrible. Even housing was a problem, clothing was a problem. If not being a street girl, I don't think if I could be living. I don't think I could. No, I hate nobody. Because the person I hate in my life died. She passed on. She passed on. And in the life she had nobody to help her to keep us. We'll go hungry, sleep hungry. Even floods, when they went to, it was raining, floods could come, enter the house. Yes, I don't think Ivan could be there. I don't think. That's why it is my desire to see, just look at me, what you have done to me, and do to other people. Don't look at other people, just look at me. You have done so much work. So much. Because I could know more. I could know more. There's nobody could know me. Nobody. I could have no self-identity.
All right. Thanks, Steve. And thanks everyone for bearing with us tonight. It's great to connect with everyone.